Treasurer, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Ali. Good morning, Karl.
Are you working on a 4 to 6 week plan to open schools and the economy? Does that sound about right?
Well, in terms of schools, we want kids to go to school, continue to get their education, whether it's online or in the classroom, and the Prime Minister and State Premiers have been making that point. With regard to the broader restrictions across the economy, we'll continue to be led by the medical advice. That's served us well, Ali. We've actually had success in flattening that curve. Just a few weeks ago, we were seeing the growth in the number of coronavirus cases of more than 20% per day. That's now gone below 2%. And if you look at Japan, if you look at Singapore, in those countries they thought they were making real progress. They started to relax restrictions, and then they saw a second wave of infections across their country. And in places like Sweden, which allowed large gatherings, they've now had more than 10 times the number of deaths from the coronavirus than Australia, yet Sweden has less than half of our population. So there are real challenges ahead. People should not be complacent. Patience is a real virtue.
Nonetheless, retailers and retail groups are putting enormous pressure, I guess, on you, including Wesfarmers. They're pushing hard for a reopening. What are you telling them? What are you saying to them exactly?
I'm talking daily with business leaders, and look, I understand the severe economic impact that the health restrictions are having on businesses. But everyone understands that we do need to take the medical advice, that we need to preserve lives and livelihoods. What we're dealing here with is a global pandemic, the scale of which we've never seen before, and it's deadly. I mean, it's wrong to think, Karl, that this is a virus that only hits older Australians. It hits younger Australians as well. And what we do know is that thousands and thousands of people have died around the world, and Australia has put in place strict measures to preserve the safety of Australians, and that's served us well.
Treasurer, I think this is where some parents get confused, because on one hand you're saying it doesn't just impact the old, that it does the young as well, but you're saying it is safe for all kids to return to the classroom.
Well, again, the medical advice is schools should remain open. That's the clear medical advice to the National Cabinet. With regards to social distancing laws, again, we've taken the medical advice. But we need, as a country, to work together to follow that medical advice, because it has served us well.
The problem is the argument, I mean, you must see it yourself and you must hear it yourself. The argument falls down at social distancing in schools. And also when you say the medical advice is that it doesn't affect our kids, and you said just then, it does affect our kids. So there is this confusing messaging going on. You have to concede that.
Well, I understand that in terms of schools, it's a challenging issue. And we want kids not to miss a year of education. We've been very clear about that. The pandemic may take lots of things away from us, but we don't want to take away our kids' education. And the other thing you've got to recognise, Karl and Ali, is that there are thousands of essential workers out there who are on the front line saving lives in hospitals as we speak. Now, they can't look after their kids at home and go to work at the same time. So we need to have a system where the schools are open, providing that form of education, but also providing the online support for those parents who do choose to stay at home.
The March job report, it's out today. How bad is it going to be?
We'll see an uptick in unemployment, but we won't see the full impact of the coronavirus. These numbers were assessed in mid-March, and as you know, the severe impact of the coronavirus has continued to take hold. Treasury put out some forecasts earlier in the week which indicated that unemployment will go from where it was in February at 5.1% to around 10%. But it would have gone to 15% if it wasn't for the JobKeeper package. And that $130 billion wage subsidy is going to keep people connected to their employer, and that will help us bounce back stronger on the other side.
The IMF assessment is for a V-shaped recovery from all of this. Is that, do you think, too optimistic, as some economists are saying? And you met with your global G20 colleagues overnight.
Yeah.
Do you agree with their assessment?
Well, it will depend on how quickly the health restrictions are lifted. And as you say, there's no vaccine right now, and let's hope some smart person in a laboratory is making progress on that. But the reality is, as long as the health restrictions put restrictions around social distancing and on the economic activity, we are going to see a hit to the economy. But the IMF and the G20 are seeing greater global coordination on both the fiscal side as well as in terms of monetary policy and the work of central banks. That's having a positive impact. We're starting to see a lot more stabilisation in equity and debt markets.
The IMF is talking about a $9 trillion loss to the Australian economy, but what I found really interesting, they're saying that that our economy is going to shrink at a much faster rate or greater rate than what the US and the UK are. When you consider, like, you know, they're in a far more dire situation than we are with this pandemic, why is it that we're feeling the impact economically more than they are?
Well, a couple of points. Firstly, they say that we're going to bounce back stronger than a number of those other nations. The second thing I'd say is when they put together these IMF numbers, we were seeing the number of daily coronavirus cases increase by 20% or more. And as you know, we've had real progress, and that increase in the number of cases is down to less than 2%. Secondly, when they were finalising their package, the JobKeeper payment had not been announced, and the JobKeeper payment will be really important at $130 billion in helping to keep people in a job and businesses in business. So there are a number of factors that you need to put that IMF report into context.
Now, Treasurer, Virgin Australia could be placed into administration within days. Will we have two major airlines in a month?
Well, we want to see two major airlines continue to operate in Australia. It's served us well. But at the same time, the government's not in the business of owning an airline. Paul Keating sold Qantas back in 1993, 27 years ago. What our focus has been is on industry-wide support, providing relief from various taxes and charges and other regulatory measures, and both Virgin and Qantas and some of the smaller airlines have been the beneficiary of that. You have to recognise that Virgin has a number of very significant shareholders: Singapore Airlines, Etihad, Virgin International, and of course some China related companies as well. No doubt Virgin is talking to their shareholders right now about their future.
And 4 out of 5 of those major shareholders have already said no to a bailout. All right, Treasurer, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.